The second time, a powerful Korean man stood beneath chandeliers and was asked to choose another woman over me. I did not wait for him to answer. I stepped onto the stage first. That is the difference healing makes. The ballroom inside Hando International's Seoul headquarters was built for announcements that moved markets. 200 investors sat beneath a ceiling of suspended glass lights. Cameras lined the back wall. Board members occupied the first 3 rows, their faces arranged into expressions that said they had already agreed on something important and expected the rest of us to catch up. At the center of the stage stood son Jaehyun, the man who had found me walking through rain after Choi Daehyun cheated on me. The billionaire CEO who had taken me to his grandmother's house instead of taking advantage of my broken heart. The patient man who had waited until I was ready before asking for anything. The man who had flown to Memphis with Halmeoni's son sat in my mama's living room beneath a framed photograph of my high school graduation and asked if he could court me with the seriousness of somebody negotiating with both God and a black mother who had worked 31 years on a hospital floor. Beside him stood Han So-rin, daughter of Chairman Han Min-kyu, educated in London, beautiful in a silver dress that seemed designed to reflect every camera flash back into the room. Her family controlled shipping terminals, private lending, and enough political influence to make honest men choose their words very carefully. Chairman Han stood at the podium. The merger between Han Maritime and Hando International, he announced, will create the largest independent logistics network in East Asia. Such unity must be secured not only through signatures, but through family. A quiet moved through the room. Not silence. Anticipation. He turned toward Jaehyun. My daughter has agreed to bind these houses together. We await Chairman Sun's answer. Every camera pointed at Jaehyun. Then they pointed at me. I was supposed to be backstage. That was the arrangement Jaehyun's communications director had suggested after 3 weeks of public attacks against me. Keep Miss Whitfield away from cameras. Protect the Hando anniversary celebration. Let the board handle the merger announcement. Let the rumors cool. I had agreed to stand backstage for exactly 9 minutes. Then I heard Chairman Han turn my relationship into an obstacle that needed to be removed, and something in me became very still. 16 months earlier, I had walked into a hotel room and found one man choosing another woman. That night, I had needed 20 minutes in a parking garage to cry. This time, I needed 4 steps. I walked onto the stage in a white suit my mama had helped me choose in Memphis. No dramatic music, no security escort. Just my heels against polished wood and the sound of 200 people realizing the woman they had been discussing as a liability had entered the conversation herself. Jaehyun's face changed when he saw me. Not fear for himself, fear that I had misunderstood. He took 1 step toward me. Imani. I held up one hand, not to silence him, to stop him from rescuing me before I had decided whether I needed rescue. Chairman Han looked annoyed. This is a private board matter, he said. No, I answered. You made it public when you put cameras in the room. So-rin's eyes sharpened. The board members began looking at one another. I turned to Jaehyun. Before you answer him, I said, I need to know whether the meetings you have been having with the Han family were about protecting me or deciding for me. The entire room held its breath. Jaehyun's jaw tightened. And that was when I knew. Not that he planned to choose her. He never did. I knew he had been keeping something from me because he believed love gave him the right to carry danger alone. That was not betrayal in the way Daehyun had betrayed me. But a beautiful cage is still a cage, and protection without partnership can become one before either person notices the door has closed. I looked at the man I loved. Do not save me from a truth that belongs to both of us, I said. Tell me what they want. Chairman Han reached for the microphone. Jaehyun took it first. Then every light in the ballroom went out. A woman's voice came through the speakers. Mine. Recorded 24 hours earlier. If you were watching this, the recording said, the Han family decided to make me disappear before I could explain what I found. That was the moment the merger died. Back to Memphis. This is part 2. Jaehyun arrived in Memphis in June. He brought 1 suitcase, 2 security officers who stayed at a hotel because my mama said nobody with an earpiece was sleeping under her roof, and Halmeoni's son, who came through the airport wearing oversized sunglasses and carrying a handbag large enough to hold emergency rations for a small country. My mama met them at baggage claim. For 10 full seconds, two women who had raised families through grief, work, and men who thought they knew better stood looking at each other. Then Halmeoni opened her arms. "Memphis Mama!" she shouted. My mother, Denise Whitfield, who does not shout in airports and does not hug strangers until she has verified at least one government document, laughed so hard she had to put down her purse. They embraced like cousins meeting after a long separation. Jaehyun looked at me. "I believe we have lost control of this visit." "We never had control," I said. "You brought your grandmother to meet my mother. We are supporting characters now." He smiled. That smile still surprised me sometimes. In Seoul, the public knew Sun Jaehyun as the founder and chairman of Hando International, a technology and logistics company operating across 16 countries. Financial magazines estimated his personal fortune at $4.3 billion. The darker rooms knew him as the head of the Sun Organization, a disciplined private network that had survived by turning old power into legal infrastructure and keeping violence as far from daylight as possible. My mother knew him as the man who had better not waste her daughter's time. That made him more nervous than either world ever had. The first evening, we ate at my mother's dining table. Not a formal dinner. Fried catfish, greens, cornbread, rice, kimchi halmeoni had carried in 3 sealed containers despite customs regulations I chose not to investigate, and ribs from a place on South 3rd that Halmeoni had been talking about since 1987. After dessert, my mother sent me to the kitchen. It was her house, so I went. From the doorway, I could hear Jaehyun speaking carefully. "Mrs. Whitfield, I love your daughter." My mother did not answer immediately. I stood at the sink, pretending to rinse a plate that was already clean. He continued. "I am not asking for permission to own her decisions. I know better than that. I am asking for your blessing to continue building a life with her. I want you to know what I intend before I ask Imani for anything permanent," my mother said. "And what exactly do you intend?" "To tell her the truth, even when the truth makes me less impressive. To never use protection as an excuse for control. To make room for her work, her family, and the parts of her life that existed before me. To stand beside her publicly. And to understand that if I ever fail those things, she has every right to leave." The plate in my hand became very still. My mother asked, "You practiced that speech?" "Yes, ma'am." "For how long?" 3 weeks. Halmeoni said. "He practiced on me. It was terrible the first 10 times. My mother laughed. Then she grew quiet. "I don't need you to promise she will never be hurt," she said. "Anybody who promises that is either lying or 12 years old. I need you to promise you will never make her carry the hurt alone while you call it love." "I promise." I heard the conviction in his voice. 6 months later, in Seoul, I would remind him that promises are not decorations. They are structures. They require maintenance, especially when fear makes secrecy look reasonable. But that night in Memphis, I believed him. I still believe he meant it. That matters. People can love you honestly and still make mistakes that threaten the shape of that love. The question is not whether they fail. The question is whether they listen when you name the failure, or punish you for refusing to pretend it did not happen. Jaehyun listened. Eventually. But first, he had to learn what his family had been hiding for 34 years. I returned to Seoul in August with 2 suitcases, 1 completed fellowship, and a plan that did not belong to any man. During the months after Daehyun's betrayal, I had started teaching textile workshops to Korean and immigrant girls at a community center Halmeoni supported. The classes grew faster than expected. Girls brought their mothers. Mothers brought neighbors. We began with indigo dyeing and quilting, then expanded into oral history, repair, and fabric preservation. I called the program Thread House. The idea was simple. Teach women that repair is not the same as hiding damage. In traditional Korean bojagi, pieces of fabric are joined so the seams become part of the beauty. In the quilts my grandmother made in Tennessee, every scrap carried evidence of a dress, a work shirt, a baby blanket, a life that had been useful before it became something new. I wanted a permanent center. Not Jaehyun's gift. Not a romantic surprise with a ribbon on it. My own non-profit, supported through grants, tuition, and partnerships I negotiated myself. Jaehyun offered office space exactly once. I said no. He said, understood. Then he introduced me to a non-profit attorney and never mentioned the space again. That was one of the reasons I loved him. The first 3 months after my return were peaceful enough to make me suspicious. Thread House secured a temporary building in Mapo. Halmeoni attended every Saturday workshop and routinely ignored the lesson plan. Jaehyun and I had dinner on Thursdays. Sometimes at his home, sometimes in tiny restaurants where nobody cared how much money he had as long as he finished his soup. Daehyun stayed away. Jaehyun disappeared from the social circles that once treated her like a rising star. I thought the story had finally moved forward. Then the first article appeared. Foreign woman linked to Hando chairman seeks public funding for personal foundation. The article described Thread House as a vanity project financed through private influence. It implied I had moved from one powerful Korean man to another. It included photographs from the night Jaehyun picked me up outside the hotel, images taken from an angle that made the moment look intimate rather than desperate. The second article arrived 2 days later. From Mafia mistress to billionaire bride? I stared at that headline for a long time. Not because it was true, because lies are most dangerous when they arrange real facts into a shape designed to humiliate you. I had loved Daehyun. Jaehyun was a billionaire. I had entered his car in the rain. His grandmother had funded the community center where I first taught. Each piece was real. The story built from those pieces was not. By the end of the week, 3 donors paused their support. One parent withdrew her daughter from Thread House because she did not want the child involved in scandal. A city grant committee delayed our hearing. Jaehyun's security team traced the articles to a media consultancy connected to Han Maritime. That was the first time I heard Chairman Han's name in relation to me. I was sitting in Jaehyun's office, 47 floors above the river, when he told me. "The Han family wants a merger," he said. "Since when?" "Years. My board reopened discussions last month. And I became a problem last week?" His expression tightened. "You became visible. I was visible when your grandmother shouted my Memphis daughter across half of Seoul. That was social. This is structural." I leaned back. There are words powerful men use when they want emotion to leave the room so they can make something sound inevitable. Structural is one of them. Strategic. Necessary. Temporary. Protection. "What structure requires strangers to call me a mistress?" I asked. "None." "Then why are we speaking calmly?" "Because if I respond emotionally, I give them evidence that targeting you controls me." "Does it?" His eyes met mine. Yes. The honesty softened something in me. But not enough. What does the merger require? Shared infrastructure, joint terminals, board representation, and a pause. Chairman Han has always preferred family alliances. There it was. Sorin. Yes. Does she want to marry you? No. Do you want to marry her? No. Then say that publicly. I will. When? When doing so does not give him an excuse to escalate against you. I stood. That answer sounds like protection. It also sounds like delay. Imani, I am not accusing you of choosing her. Then what are you accusing me of? Believing you should decide when I am strong enough to hear what is happening around my own life. His face went still. I picked up my bag. I need you to understand something. Daehyun lied because he did not respect me. You are withholding information because you are afraid for me. Those are not the same. But they can put a woman in the same dark room if you are not careful. I walked out before the argument could become about tone instead of truth. That night, Halmeoni called. "He is being stupid," she said without greeting. "You raised him." I did my best. The material was difficult. I laughed despite myself. Then she became serious. "Come tomorrow. Bring the old fabric book from your center." "What fabric book?" "The one donated by the Busan Women's Cooperative. Blue cover. Shipping stamps." I sat up. "How do you know about that?" "I know many things. Some of them because I am old. Some because people talk too loudly around old women. Bring it." The book had arrived at Thread House 2 weeks earlier in a crate of donated textiles. It was not really a book. It was a sample ledger from 1989, bound in faded blue cloth, containing fabric swatches, dye formulas, shipping receipts, and handwritten notes from a cooperative of widows who had produced ceremonial silk near Busan. I had noticed the shipping stamps because several bore the name Han Coastal Export, an earlier company in Chairman Han's family history. What I had not noticed was that 3 pages had been sewn together along the inner edge. Halmeoni noticed immediately. We sat in her study with the ledger beneath a magnifying lamp. She put on reading glasses and handed me a small seam ripper. Open it carefully. Why? Because my younger sister made that binding. I looked at her. Halmeoni's son had one younger sister, Sun Mija, a name mentioned only once in all the time I had known her, followed by a silence I had understood not to enter. She worked with this cooperative? She owned it. The room changed. I cut the first thread. Inside the sewn pages were copies of transfer documents, property deeds, shipping rights, loan agreements, all dated within 6 months of one another, all signed by women from the cooperative, all transferring their land, equipment, and export licenses to Han Coastal Export after a series of loans went into default. At first glance, it looked like an ordinary business collapse. Then I saw the dates. The default notices had been issued before the loan payments were due. The signatures on 2 separate documents were identical down to the pressure mark, suggesting they had been copied. And attached to the final transfer was a private memorandum bearing the signature of Sun Mija. I read it aloud. If these documents are ever found, let it be known that the Han Company created the debt, blocked our shipments, and purchased our silence with threats against our families. I am placing copies inside the work we made because men inspect accounts and overlook women's hands. Halmeoni closed her eyes. For a moment, she was not the loud woman in pink cardigans who threatened to call my mother whenever I made a decision she liked. What happened to her? I asked. She left Korea. She lived in California for 11 years. She died before we reconciled. I'm sorry. I was engaged then, Halmeoni said. Not to my husband. To Han Min-kyu. The name sat between us. Chairman Han? He was not chairman then. He was ambitious, charming. His father controlled the company. When Mija accused them, Min-kyu told me she was emotional. He said the cooperative had failed because women were not built for trade. He asked me to remain silent so our marriage could unite the families. What did you do? I remained silent for 3 months. Her voice thinned. 3 months was enough. The land transferred. The women scattered. My sister left. Then I ended the engagement and married the slow, stubborn man who became Jaehyun's grandfather. She looked at the ledger. I reached across the table and took her hand. Why give this to me now? Because the Han family knows the ledger exists. A cold feeling moved through me. The articles. They are not only trying to remove you from Jaehyun, they are trying to discredit you before you understand what you found. Does Jaehyun know? Halmeoni hesitated. That hesitation hurt more than the answer. How long? I asked. He learned 3 days ago, and he did not tell me. He believed he could negotiate for time. I stood so quickly the chair moved backward. Negotiate what? Your safety, the center, the merger. He believed he could force Han to withdraw without making the ledger public, by meeting with them privately. Yes, by letting me think the only issue was a marriage alliance. Halmeoni's eyes filled. I told him he was wrong. He promised my mother. I know. I walked to the window. Does the ledger prove criminal fraud? Not alone. It proves enough to reopen questions. There were other records, shipping manifests, bank orders. My sister said 1 copy went to a lawyer. Who? She never named him. I turned back. Then we find the rest. Halmeoni shook her head. The Han family will come harder. I picked up the ledger. I am taking this. It belongs to the cooperative. Then I am taking it back to the women whose story it carries. Halmeoni stood. What will you tell Jaehyun? The truth. Then I am going to ask whether he still knows how. Jaehyun was waiting at my apartment when I arrived. Some stories repeat their images until you understand what has changed. This time, I was angry, and he needed to offer accountability. He looked at the ledger in my hands. Halmeoni told you. She told me what you should have told me. I was coming tonight. After meeting Chairman Han 4 times, his silence confirmed the number. I unlocked the building door. You may come upstairs. You are not staying. He followed. Inside, I placed the ledger on the table and remained standing. Jaehyun took off his coat but did not sit. I made the wrong decision, he said. Yes. I believed if I kept the evidence contained, I could force Han to stop targeting you and protect Hando from a merger that would give his family access to our systems. You believed you could solve every part of the problem without the woman being attacked, knowing what the problem was. Yes. Why? His answer took time. Because I know what men like Han do when they are afraid. Because my parents died in an accident that was never fully explained. Because I have spent my entire adult life believing information is safest when carried by the fewest people. Because loving you has given every enemy I have a name they can use. There it was. Not arrogance alone. Fear. Fear can make good people repeat bad patterns with better intentions. I softened, but I did not move toward him. You do not get to turn me into a secret because other people are dangerous. I know. No, you understand the sentence. I need you to understand the cost. I spent 2 years with a man who would not claim me because I did not fit his world. I will not spend my future with a man who claims me publicly but hides the truth from me because he thinks his world is too dangerous for my full participation. His eyes lowered. I promised your mother I would not make you carry hurt alone. And you decided to carry the whole war alone instead. That still leaves me outside. He looked at me then. What do you need? I need space. His face changed, almost imperceptibly. How much? I don't know. Are you ending this? I am refusing to continue it under the current rules. He nodded slowly. I could see the instinct in him to negotiate. Promise, fix, move resources, assign protection, create certainty. He did none of those things. He picked up his coat. Good. I will not come here unless you ask. Good. If there is an immediate threat, you may warn me. You may not relocate me without consent, lock me inside an estate, or make decisions in my name. A flicker of pain crossed his face. I would never lock you anywhere. Then do not build a cage out of good intentions. He stood at the door. Imani. Yes, I am sorry. I know. I love you. I know that too. Love was not the question. Partnership was. He left. I cried after the door closed, not because I believed I had lost him, because choosing yourself does not stop hurting, simply because you have done it before. Sometimes choosing yourself means risking a good love so it has the chance to become an honest one. Comment no more beautiful cages if you have ever had to tell somebody that protecting you does not mean controlling the information you are allowed to have. The next morning, I called Marcus Webb in Atlanta. I sent him photographs of every document in the ledger. He called back 4 hours later. Imani, this is not just a property theft. What is it? The cooperative's shipping license gave access to a textile corridor that later became part of Han Maritime's first international terminal agreement. If the original transfers were fraudulent, part of the family's current port authority may be built on invalid ownership. How much is that worth? In current infrastructure? Billions. I closed my eyes. That explains the articles. It explains why somebody accessed your non-profit donor list yesterday. I sat up. What? They are mapping everyone connected to me. Yes. Can you prove it? I can prove the contractor accessed the system. Intent is harder. Keep looking. The second call came from somebody I did not expect. Choi Daehyun. I watched his name on my screen until it stopped ringing. Then it rang again. I answered. You have 30 seconds. I have something about Han Maritime. The anger in me became alert. Why? Because they approached me. For what? To help discredit you. I said nothing. They offered to restore 2 of my former shipping partnerships if I gave them information about your time with me. Financial records. Photographs. Anything that could support the claim that you used relationships with powerful men to advance yourself. And what did you say? A pause. I asked what information they already had. That is not no. No. It was not. I almost ended the call. He continued quickly. I was going to agree. Then why are you telling me? Because the file they showed me included the anonymous message sent to you the night you found me with Jaehyun. My hand tightened around the phone. What are you saying? The message came through a Han contractor. They wanted you separated from me before you became connected to the Sun family. They knew Jaehyun and I were together. They made sure you found out at the worst possible moment. The room seemed to tilt. They did not make you cheat. I know. They did not make you humiliate me. I know. They opened a door. You walked through it. I sat down. What evidence do you have? A copy of the proposal. Payment records linking the media consultancy to the same contractor. And a reference to a lawyer named Cho Min-sok who handled historical transfer containment for the Han family. The missing lawyer. Where are you? My office. Send copies to Marcus. Who is Marcus? Somebody who knows what to do with evidence and does not need your life story. I will send them. Daehyun. Yes, this does not repair anything between us. I know. It does not earn forgiveness. I know. Then why do it? He exhaled. I believed he meant it. Belief is not reconciliation. Sometimes a person's growth is real and still does not require your presence. Send the files, I said. He did. 3 days later, Thread House lost its building. The landlord called at 7 in the morning and said an investment company had purchased the property. Our lease would not be renewed. We had 30 days. By 9, reporters were outside. By noon, a fabricated audit circulated online claiming Thread House had misused donor funds. At 3, the city suspended our grant review pending investigation. Girls arrived for class at 4 and found camera crews at the entrance. One 11-year-old asked me if we were criminals. That question decided the next move. I called a press conference. Not at Hando, not at Halmeoni's estate. At Thread House, inside the crowded workroom, with quilts on the walls and dye stains on the tables. Jaehyun called when the announcement went public. I answered. I know you asked for space, he said. I am not calling to stop you. Good. I am calling to ask what support you want. The question mattered. Not what he planned to give. What I wanted. Cybersecurity records. The donor access logs. Confirmation that Hando has not funded Thread House, and your legal team available to answer technical questions, not speak for me. You will have all of it. No security visible inside the room. Imani outside only. A pause. Outside only. Thank you. The press conference began at 6. I told the truth in order. Then I introduced the ledger. I am a textile researcher, I said. I study what fabric carries after people assume its only purpose is decoration. This ledger was created by a women's cooperative in 1989. Inside its binding were documents suggesting that Han Coastal Export acquired land and shipping rights through fraudulent defaults, forged signatures, and coercion. The room erupted. Reporters shouted questions. I raised my hand. I am not announcing a verdict. I am announcing evidence that deserves investigation. Thread House will represent surviving cooperative members and their families in seeking the truth. A reporter called, "Is this revenge because Chairman Han opposes your relationship with son Jaehyun?" I looked directly at him. My relationship is not the subject. Property theft is. Women's labor is. The use of media attacks to silence evidence is. If you cannot separate a woman's work from the man she loves, that is not a problem with my credibility. It is a limitation in your imagination. Behind the cameras, I saw Jaehyun. He stood near the exit where I had asked security to remain. Not beside me, not in front of me, present. His eyes held pride and regret in equal measure. Afterward, when the room emptied, he approached slowly. "You were extraordinary," he said. I was prepared. "You were both." I packed my notes. The Han family will respond. I know. My board scheduled an emergency anniversary meeting. They intend to force a merger vote. When? 2 weeks. Will you tell me everything this time? Yes. Even if you think the truth will scare me? Yes. Even if you believe you can solve it faster alone? He looked at me steadily. Yes. I nodded. That is a beginning. Not forgiveness. Not reunion. A beginning. The surviving women of the cooperative met at Halmeoni's estate the following Sunday. One woman, Mrs. Lim, recognized the signature of lawyer Cho Min-sok. He kept a copy, she said. Mija gave it to him before she left. Where is he now? I asked. Dead. His son took over the practice. Marcus located the son in under an hour. Cho Junho agreed to meet, then cancelled after receiving what he described as family advice. That evening, Halmeoni gathered everyone in the dining room. She stood at the head of the table, hands trembling. I owe you an apology, she said in Korean. The women became still. I knew Han Min-kyu's family had interfered with your shipments. I knew the loans were designed to fail. I did not know every document was forged, but I knew enough to speak. I stayed silent because I was afraid of scandal, and because I believed ending my engagement later would separate me from what happened. Mrs. Lim looked at her for a long time. "You were young," she said. "That explains me." "It does not excuse me." Halmeoni's voice broke. Silence protected my future for one season and poisoned yours for generations. Nobody rushed to comfort her. That was right. Accountability is not a performance designed to earn immediate forgiveness. Then the oldest woman, Mrs. Kwon, lifted her cane and pointed toward an empty chair. "Sit down, Hyoja. You can cry after we decide what to do." Halmeoni sat. I nearly smiled because I understood where her philosophy came from. We built a plan. Before everyone left, Halmeoni pulled me aside. "Jaehyun is prepared to give up control of Hando rather than accept the marriage condition. Did he tell you to tell me?" "No, he told me not to interfere. And you heard permission. I am old. Instructions become suggestions." I sighed. Why would he lose control? The board believes the merger is necessary to survive a global acquisition fight. Han has secured 3 directors. If Jaehyun refuses the family alliance, they will call him compromised by emotion and vote to remove him temporarily. My chest tightened. He knows this? Yes. And he still refused? He refused before they finished asking. I looked toward the garden. Love was not the question, but love mattered. He should have told me. Yes. I am still angry. Yes. I also want to see him. Halmeoni smiled. Yes. Jaehyun came to Thread House after midnight. He stood in the doorway. I was sitting on the floor, packing thread into labeled boxes. "You can help," I said. He removed his coat, rolled up his sleeves, and sat across from me. "Finally," I said. "Halmeoni told me about the board." "Of course she did. She said you may lose control of Hando." "I may. Why didn't you tell me?" He placed a spool of blue thread in the correct box. "I was going to." I gave him a look. He corrected himself. "I was afraid telling you would make you feel responsible. That is not your decision." "I know." "Do you?" "I am learning." The answer was humble enough to be honest. I closed the box. "I do not want you to lose your company for me. I am not refusing the merger for you alone. Han Access would compromise Hando's systems and connect us to a family whose business may be built on fraud. You exposed a truth my board was prepared to ignore because the numbers looked good. And the marriage? Never. Even if I walk away?" He looked at me. "Even then, Sorin is not a punishment I would impose on either of us." That answer released something I had not admitted I was holding. I moved closer, still sitting on the floor. "Here are my rules," I said. He waited. "No secrets made in my name. No wars fought around me while I am told to stay safe. No using security to control where I go. If a threat concerns me, I hear it. If a decision affects us, we make it together. If either of us cannot do that, we walk separately." He nodded. "My rules," he said. I raised an eyebrow. "You tell me when fear is speaking before fear turns into distance. You do not disappear to protect me from your anger. You allow me to stand beside you without assuming that means I think you are weak. I considered that. Fair. And one more." "What?" "Halmeoni will object. She will survive. That remains unproven." He smiled. I reached for his hand. Not forgiveness completed. Partnership resumed. There is a difference. The missing legal archive was inside a storage facility outside Incheon. Jaehyun offered security. Cho refused. He believed Hando wanted the records as leverage in the merger fight. Then Daehyun called. "I know Cho," he said. "His father handled 2 disputes for my family. He will meet me. Why would he trust you? He does not. But he believes I am desperate enough to sell the archive to Han. That will get me in the room." I hated the plan. Not because I feared Daehyun would betray us, because I feared part of him might believe sacrifice could purchase redemption. We met in Jaehyun's office. This time, nobody spoke for me. Daehyun placed the Han proposal on the table. "I will tell Cho I accepted their offer," he said. "He will show me the archive to establish value. Marcus can verify the documents remotely. Then Cho receives independent protection and the files go directly to the cooperative's attorneys." Jaehyun asked, "What does Han believe you receive?" "Restored shipping access." "And what do you actually receive?" Daehyun looked at me. Nothing, I said. Be certain. I am. You do not get to call this repayment. I know. You do not get to stand beside me afterward and ask whether I see you differently. I know. You may be doing the right thing. It does not rewrite the hotel room. His face tightened, but he nodded. I know. The meeting happened 2 nights later. Cho opened the archive. Inside were original bank instructions proving Han Coastal Export had ordered a partner bank to delay cooperative payments, trigger false defaults, and transfer assets through shell companies. There were also letters from Han Min-kyu himself, written before he became chairman. One sentence ended the merger. The women will accept the loss because nobody will believe they understand the contracts. Marcus verified the handwriting and paper trail. Cho signed a statement. Daehyun transmitted copies. Then Han's security arrived early. He triggered the building's fire alarm. The facility evacuated. Public emergency crews arrived. Cameras came with them. Han's people could not remove the records without being seen. Daehyun walked out, carrying the archive box in both hands, and placed it directly into Mrs. Kwon's attorney's vehicle. A reporter caught the image. By morning, the question was no longer whether the archive existed. The question was why Han Maritime had sent private security to retrieve it. Daehyun lost the shipping access he had been promised. He also lost the final investor willing to rebuild his organization. When I called to thank him, he said, "Do not." Why? Because I did not do it for thanks. For the first time, he understood. Chairman Han controlled 3 board votes. 2 more directors feared the merger's collapse would trigger a hostile acquisition. So-rin had remained publicly silent, but privately she sent me one message. My father believes women are agreements men make with one another. I do not intend to become one. Do not mistake my position beside him for consent. I replied, then stand when it matters. She did not answer. The plan for the gala was simple. Chairman Han expected Jaehyun to announce the merger and engagement. If Jaehyun refused, the board would vote to suspend him. We would release the archive after the vote so nobody could claim he fabricated the evidence only to protect his relationship. I agreed to remain backstage until the financial presentation ended. Then Chairman Han placed his daughter beside Jaehyun and demanded an answer under camera lights. You already know what I did. I walked onto the stage. I asked Jaehyun whether his secret meetings had been about protecting me or deciding for me. Then the lights went out. That part had not been in our plan. Emergency power returned after 12 seconds. The giant display showed the cooperative ledger. My pre-recorded voice filled the ballroom. If you were watching this, the Han family decided to make me disappear before I could explain what I found. I looked at Jaehyun. Did you authorize this? No. Chairman Han shouted for security. Nothing happened, because So-rin stood at the control desk with a tablet in her hand. She had uploaded the video. She walked onto the stage and faced her father. You taught me that family protects its name, she said. You never taught me that the name was built by stealing from women you believed nobody would hear. Chairman Han's face drained. The video continued. The ballroom erupted. Jaehyun took the microphone. The merger is terminated, he said. One director shouted, You do not have authority to terminate without a vote. I am not asking. Then this board will suspend you. Jaehyun looked at him. Call the vote. They did. For 7 minutes, men discussed whether Jaehyun's refusal proved he had become emotionally compromised. Then Mrs. Kwon entered the ballroom, 92 years old, oxygen tank, cane striking the floor like punctuation. Behind her came the surviving cooperative women, their children and their grandchildren. Halmeoni walked with them. The room parted. Mrs. Kwon reached the front row and said, loudly enough for every microphone to catch it, vote carefully. Some of you are about to attach your names to theft older than your careers. The first director changed his vote. Then another. So-rin publicly rejected the marriage alliance and resigned from the Han family board. A Hando director who had supported the merger asked for a recess. Jaehyun refused. Finish what you began. The final vote was 6-5. Jaehyun remained chairman. The merger failed. He had entered expecting to acquire a company and arrange a marriage. He left without control of either his daughter or the story. When the room finally began to clear, Jaehyun came toward me. He stopped 1 step away. Not touching until I chose. I should have trusted you with the truth from the beginning, he said. Yes, I will spend the rest of my life practicing that lesson if you allow me. That sounds suspiciously like a proposal. It is not. Your mother would kill me if I proposed without her present. Correct. It is a statement of intent. I looked around the destroyed gala. Reporters, lawyers, grandmothers, board members pretending not to listen. This is a terrible place for statements of intent. I agree. Take me to dinner. His face softened. Yes, somewhere with no billion-dollar fraud. I will make a reservation. And Jaehyun? Yes? Next time somebody asks you to choose another woman over me, answer before I have to walk onto the stage. There will not be a next time. That was the correct answer. The investigation lasted 11 months. Han Maritime's old transfer agreements were reopened. 3 parcels of port land were placed under court supervision. A restitution fund was created for the cooperative families. Chairman Han resigned after prosecutors confirmed forged banking instructions and witness intimidation. So Rin testified. She lost her inheritance. She gained a life that belonged to her. Thread House received no money directly from Hando or the Han settlement. I insisted on that. Instead, the cooperative families established an independent cultural trust using part of the recovered assets. They asked Thread House to manage textile preservation, education, and business grants for women-owned workshops. We moved into a permanent building near the river. My name was not on the building. The women's names were. Every cooperative member, including Sun Mi-ja. On opening day, Halmeoni stood beneath her sister's name and cried without checking the clock. Nobody told her to stop. Not in front. Not at the center. Beside the families. Afterward, he handed me a paper cup of tea. You did not donate the building, I said. You told me not to. You did not put your logo anywhere. You told me not to. You are learning. Slowly. Your grandfather would be proud. Halmeoni says he was slow too. She says it like an insult. It is also the highest compliment she gives men. I laughed. Healing is not only the absence of pain. Sometimes it is the return of ordinary laughter in places where fear once controlled the air. Jaehyun proposed in Memphis the following spring. No gala. No press. No board. After dessert, Jaehyun stood in my mother's backyard beneath the pecan tree my father planted when I was born. He did not kneel immediately. First, he spoke. Imani, you taught me that love is not proven by how completely I can protect you. It is proven by whether I trust you with the full truth and stand beside the choices you make with it. My mother started crying. Halmeoni started crying louder because she is competitive. Jaehyun continued. I cannot promise a life without danger, grief, or mistakes. I can promise no secret decisions made in your name. No rooms where your future is discussed while you wait outside. No love that asks you to become smaller so I can feel stronger. Then he knelt. Will you marry me? I looked at the man who had opened a car door in the rain and then spent 2 years learning that opening a door is not the same as choosing where a woman walks after she enters. Yes, I said. Halmeoni shouted, IKNWIT, as if the rest of us had been uncertain. We married 3 months later in Memphis. My mother wore deep blue. Halmeoni wore bright pink and argued with the caterer about whether ribs should be served beside japchae. The answer became yes, because nobody successfully tells either of those women no. So Rin attended alone and danced with Marcus, who spent the entire evening pretending not to be impressed by her. Daehyun did not attend. He sent no gift. He sent a card with 1 sentence. May you receive what you have given. The same words I had once spoken to Hyojin in that hotel room. This time, they felt like a blessing. At the reception, Jaehyun took my hand. Mrs. Sun, he said. I gave him a look. Imani Whitfield's son, he corrected. Better. Chairwoman Whitfield's son? Do not get carried away. He smiled. No strategic alliance. No merger. No cameras waiting to measure what our marriage meant to a market. Just 2 people who had learned that being chosen is not one grand decision. It is a practice. 1,000 honest choices made after the music stops. 1 year later, Thread House opened its second center in Busan on land returned to the Cooperative Trust. The building contained classrooms, archives, workshop space, and a small business incubator for women working in textiles, design, and cultural preservation. Above the entrance were the words, What women build remembers them. I stood outside before the opening with Jaehyun beside me. Not ahead. Not behind. Beside. Jaehyun handed me the key. I looked at it, then at him. "You should open it," he said. "We should." So we each placed one hand on the door. Together, we pushed it open. That is the lesson I carried from part 1 into part 2. The first time I was betrayed, I needed to learn that I could walk away. The second time fear entered my relationship, I needed to learn that walking away is not always the final answer. Sometimes the stronger choice is to stop, name the pattern, demand new rules, and see whether the person who loves you is capable of changing beside you. Daehyun wanted me useful and hidden. Jaehyun loved me and almost made the mistake of protecting me through secrecy. One man punished me for being too much. The other had to learn not to treat me as too precious to carry truth. Those are different failures. Wisdom is knowing the difference without excusing either one. I did not defeat the Han family by becoming more powerful than they were. I defeated their plan by refusing the role they assigned me. Silent girlfriend, foreign scandal, emotional weakness, woman waiting backstage while men negotiated her future. I walked onto the stage. I told the truth. That is what power looks like now. Not a man opening his door and carrying me through it. A man opening the door, stepping aside, and trusting that I know how to walk. And when the door is too heavy for one person, we open it together. Comment we decide together if you believe love should never require one person to become smaller, quieter, or less informed so the other can feel strong. And subscribe for the next story, because Halmeoni has already informed me that marriage is not an ending. The Busan Center has uncovered one more sealed box in its archive, and my mother says she does not trust any family secret that arrives wrapped in silk. She is usually right.